All right, welcome. Today, we're basically grabbing the blueprints for one of the most important pieces of digital architecture being built right now. I'm talking about Article 15 of the EU's new AI Act. This is all about how we build AI we can actually trust. So yeah, how do we make sure AI is safe when the stakes are really, really high? That's the core question, right? And what's interesting is that the EU's answer isn't just some vague set of principles. Article 15, it's more like a technical blueprint, a literal guide for building safe and reliable AI.
Okay, so how are we going to tackle this? Think of it like building a fortress for AI. You've got to do it layer by layer. So, we'll start with the groundwork, understanding what we're building on. Then, we'll lay the foundation, put up the walls, set up the defenses, and finally, we'll step back and take a look at the whole picture.
First things first, before we even think about laying a single stone, we have to understand the terrain. You see, these rules, they don't apply to every single piece of AI out there. Not at all. They're specifically for what the Act calls high-risk systems. So what on earth does that actually mean?
The core idea here is really all about proportionality. The EU AI Act isn't trying to regulate, your photo editing app. It's laser-focused on systems where a mistake or a failure or even a hidden bias could have genuinely serious consequences for people's lives and their well-being.
Yeah, so we're not talking about the AI that suggests your next movie night. Think way, way bigger. We're talking about the AI that helps a doctor diagnose a medical condition, or the one driving a car, or managing the electrical grid, or how about the one that decides if you get a loan, or even assists in a police investigation? The stakes here are just in a completely different league.
All right, now that we know the lay of the land, it's time to pour the foundation. And for AI, that foundation is accuracy. The system has to be reliable. It has to do what it says it's going to do, and do it correctly.
Okay, now look closely at the wording here. The key word is not perfect, it's appropriate. This is so important. The Act doesn't demand 100% accuracy, because, let's be real, that's often impossible. Instead, it introduces this really flexible but powerful idea that ties the accuracy you need directly to the context of how it's being used.
And this right here, this is a perfect example of what appropriate means in the real world. The accuracy you need for an AI that's diagnosing cancer has to be incredibly high, right? Because the consequences of a mistake are just severe. But for an AI that recommends a bad movie, the consequence is just a wasted evening. See? The level of risk dictates the level of accuracy required.
And get this isn't some internal company secret. The Act makes transparency a must. Developers have to come right out and state exactly how accurate their system is and how they're even measuring it. And this is absolutely critical because it allows the folks who are actually using the AI, the hospitals, the banks, to make truly informed decisions. They need to understand the system's limits before someone's health or finances are on the line. So a solid foundation is essential, obviously, but it's not going to protect you without strong walls. A fortress is pretty useless if it just collapses at the first sign of trouble, and it's the exact same thing for high-risk AI. It has to be robust enough to handle the messy, unpredictable real world.
So what is robustness? Well, it basically means the AI can take a hit without completely falling apart. It has to be designed from the ground up to handle weird, unexpected inputs, internal errors, or just strange things happening in its environment, all without causing a catastrophic failure.
And you don't get this with just one single feature. It's all about layers of protection. It means having backup plans or fail-safes ready to kick in at a moment's notice. It means thinking ahead, trying to anticipate how people might misuse the system, intentionally or not. And, this is a big one, it means designing for what's called graceful degradation. That's the idea that if a part of the system fails, it doesn't just crash and burn, it safely shuts down the non-essential stuff while keeping the absolutely critical functions running.
The Act also dives into a really tricky problem: feedback loops. This is where an AI that's constantly learning can get trapped in a pretty nasty cycle. Imagine a small bias in its output gets fed back into the system as new truth, which just amplifies the error over and over and over again. The law says you have to build in safeguards against this.
Okay, our fortress has its foundation and its walls, but now it needs defenses against active threats. The AI Act is smart about this. It recognizes that AI systems have their own unique vulnerabilities that need specialized cybersecurity.
And we're talking way beyond your standard IT firewalls here. This is about protecting the AI's core logic, its learning process, its whole decision-making engine from being messed with by bad actors.
So one of the biggest threats out there is something called data poisoning. This is where an attacker intentionally feeds the AI bad data while it's still learning. And think about it. If an AI learns from corrupted information, its decisions are going to be corrupted from the get-go. It's like someone tampering with the ingredients before the cake is even baked.
Then you've got these things called adversarial examples. These are really sneaky. They're inputs that look totally normal to a person, but they've been tweaked just a tiny bit to completely fool an AI. Imagine a stop sign with a few pixels changed in a way that makes a self-driving car's AI see it as a 100-mile-per-hour speed limit sign. It's a direct attack on how the AI perceives the world.
So to fight all this, the Act demands a proactive, multi-layered defense. It calls for very specific technical measures to fight against poisoning and these adversarial attacks. But honestly, the most crucial part is this mandate for a security by design approach. What that means is security can't be an afterthought, something you bolt on at the end. It has to be woven into the system's DNA from the very first line of code.
Okay, so we've laid our foundation of accuracy, we've built the walls of robustness, and we've set up the defenses of cybersecurity. Let's step back for a second and see what this completed fortress really looks like.
What's really interesting here is seeing how these rules actually got stronger over time. The first proposal back in 2021, it had some pretty general language, but the final act, it's much, much more specific. It explicitly calls for developing benchmarks to actually measure performance, and it names specific AI vulnerabilities, like model poisoning, that have to be addressed. In a way, the law itself learned and adapted.
So these three pillars, accuracy, robustness, and cybersecurity, they aren't just separate items on some checklist. No way. They're deeply connected supports for the entire structure. They are the very definition of what the EU means when it talks about trustworthy AI.
And when you get right down to it, this entire structure is a really carefully designed balancing act. The goal isn't to slow down AI innovation, it's to steer it. It's about building our confidence as a society, so we can be sure that as we innovate, we're doing it in a way that's safe, secure, and respects our fundamental rights.
And that leaves us with one final and pretty crucial question. The sources describe the EU AI Act as a living document for a reason. This blueprint, it's state-of-the-art for today. But the challenge remains, right? The fortress we build from these plans can't have fixed walls. It has to be designed to adapt, because it needs to be ready for the unforeseen threats of tomorrow.